for us, the people of the North, for me particularly, and like Oxlade said some time ago, and that was true, that but for Nkrumah, probably many of us would not have had the benefit of formal education, because I mean, I still remember so many years after Nkrumah, Buzia wondering why a bank, the commercial bank, had gone to the Bolgatanga area and built a bank. I mean, and the people of Bolgatanga were so poor that they didn't deserve a bank, you know. And then you go back and look into history. Gordon Gottisberg, who is celebrated here in the South as the architect of formal education in this country, saying that the British colonial administration or administrator in the northern territories had gotten the whole policy, British policy, wrong, because we were being brought out to be hewers of wood and drawers of water. And so clearly, Nkrumah, I mean, that's why I say for me, Nkrumah actually represents a lot. And anytime I speak about Nkrumah, I become emotional. That, look, there was a consistent, persistent, determined effort to keep a certain part of this country underdeveloped and widen the developmental gap between the South and the North. It was Nkrumah who understood that this nation cannot develop to its best potential by keeping a certain part of it underdeveloped. And so one way to ensure that you provided equal opportunities for all was to extend education to the nook and cranny of the country. I mean, how do you judge this man? Can we celebrate him enough? We can never celebrate Nkrumah enough. Today, as I speak to you, you go to the northern part of the country, and people, I mean, to be accepted actually as a party, a political party, you must accept that Nkrumah is the fulcrum on which the northern region rested. Clearly. I mean, and people still appreciate what he has done for the people of this country. How can you explain? I see a library in this studio. But how can you explain that when Nkrumah was overthrown, there was an attempt to obliterate his life from the history of this country? There was a ban on reading Nkrumah's books for a very long time, close to 10 years, all during the time of the National Liberation Council. I mean, clearly the authorities then thought nobody should read about the ideas of Nkrumah. I mean, it was even an offense to keep pictures of Nkrumah or clothes that had been printed with Nkrumah's effigy or picture on it. I mean, you will not understand what happened to us. Today, look at the infrastructure. Look at the infrastructure that we are priding on. Look at the Tema Harbor. Look at the Tekrade Harbor. Look at the University of Ghana. Look at the Tema Motorway. Look at the institutions of state. Look at the Ghana schools. You can continue to mention that clearly, unlike present-day developmental leaders who claim to be developmental leaders, Nkrumah not only spoke about the independence of Ghana not being meaningful if it was not linked up with the total liberation of the African continent, but that the dignity of the Africa ought to be upheld, and we should be responsible for our own destiny. He started it and continued with it. And like your intro, 140 years ago, there was born to a woman, a man who grew up knowing very well his roots, educated himself, found his way through difficulties and hardship to the United States, studied in universities in the United States, continued to the United Kingdom, came back to Ghana to help fight the colonial administration and get our independence, ensured that Ghana became the first country south of the Sahara to be independent of British colonial rule, was rewarded with the opportunity to be the first president of the Republic of Ghana. In fact, it is Nkrumah who gave us the name Ghana. That is why we still celebrate him as the founder of the Republic of Ghana, the modern day Republic of Ghana. Now, I conclude by saying, wherever Dr. Kwame Nkrumah is fondly remembered by the people of this country, and particularly by the people of Northern Ghana, the people of my time who had the benefit of enjoying from his policies that he introduced for Northern Ghana. I mean, people talk about industrialization. Nkrumah demonstrated industrialization. The meat factory, the Northern Star factory, we produced corned beef, which was so delicious that it was unlike any corned beef produced anywhere. So natural. The tomato factories, the rice mills, name them. And you will see that we as a country lost a glorious opportunity to develop this country under the visionary leadership of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. Wherever you are, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, we wish you a happy 140th birthday. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mr. Fusini. Now let me turn my attention to Mr. Philip London.
Well, thank you very much, Bless, and thank you for inviting me. And good morning to my brother, Alaji. I haven't seen you for a long time, and it's good to be with you this morning. And my salutations to our comrade, Kwesi. He is also one person who has done very well in keeping the torch of Kwame Nkrumah alight and bright. So, Comrade Kwesi, best wishes. Bless. We thank the Almighty that today we are celebrating Kwame Nkrumah's birthday. And as a country, we are giving it the appropriate recognition. I would have wished that as a nation, today would have been marked, filled with activities that we would be discussing and appreciating the man Kwame Nkrumah. Yes, he did well. As a human being, he made his mistakes. But all told, he was an icon. My brother, Alaji, I could feel his passion because of what Kwame Nkrumah did for the North. But that same passion is the passion that many other people too feel. Because talking about dismantling the Gettysburg plan for our country, where this country had been designed in such a way that just a small area should see education, another area should see just raw material extraction, others should just serve as a labor force. Kwame Nkrumah challenged that and dismantled that. And not only did he do it in the north, but he did it in other parts of Ghana and used that as a more or less like a template and inspired other African countries to do the same, and even went beyond Africa into the general diaspora. So it wasn't just Ghanaians who took inspiration from him and other Africans and black people, but black people and people in the general diaspora. In the continent of the United States, black Americans took inspiration from Kwame Nkrumah. Many of them pilgrimaged to Ghana to come and see after all, unlike what we were being taught in our schools, that the black man is capable of doing everything the white man has done and can do. In the case of Kwame Nkrumah, everything he did, he didn't just do it for doing his sake. He strove for excellence. So like the examples that have just been made, when he opened factories for corned beef and things like that, they were supposed to meet and beat the world standards in those days. The edifices he put up were supposed to match and beat the world standards. He wasn't prepared to accept a certain level of mediocrity. that because we are blacks or we are Africans, so therefore we should be of a certain level. That was the kind of inspiration Kwame Nkrumah gave. And it is for that fundamental lesson and that fundamental leadership that he gave that he has been given the platform that he has. Yes, it is also true that after his overthrow, there was a conscious effort to obliterate his memory,
His legacy,
and everything that he stood for. But the voices from even outside our shores were so loud that we couldn't hide it any longer. And in our quiet moments, Ghanaians, we began to appreciate that, yes, indeed, even those who had condemned the man, even those who had criticized him so much, came back to say, well, it is true that this motorway that was built, in those days, was one of the best motorways in the world. And the man had that vision. When Tema Harbour was being built, it was, I mean, people hadn't imagined. The Middle East countries, what the things they were doing, some of them hadn't even dreamt. They hadn't even begun to even imagine, to dream that they could do some of the things. But Kwame Nkrumah has started doing it. But then the imperialist forces, the colonialists, because it is part of their grand design that we, the black people and people of the diaspora, should remain at a certain level, did everything possible to stop not just Kwame Nkrumah, but all other progressives who seemed to be moving the Africans in a certain direction. They did everything possible to stop them. Today, history has taught us where some of our leaders, some of them too thinking they were doing the right thing, assisted them to get us to where we are today. And now we are struggling to pick up the pieces. So, Kwame Nkrumah will forever remain the great person he has been. We will continue to remember him, and I think going forward, those of us who are hoping to be able to have an opportunity to, play some role, should make it a point to ensure that this legacy of Kwame Nkrumah is not lost. And every Ghanaian in themselves should make it a point that in their own life, what legacy from Kwame Nkrumah are you trying to inculcate in your own life in the way you go about things? This should be part of our lifestyle. So, the legacy of Kwame Nkrumah will never wane. We should be very proud of it. We should teach the young people who never had the experience of the little experience some of us had. We should teach them. Because right now, in our education, people are not being taught history. The African Writers series, from which we took a lot of inspiration. Where are those books today? No. All these things must come back. Today it is telenovelas. No way. No way at all. What? How? What hurts my heart and kills my soul is when I see social media. Then there's some people who make videos of ridiculing the black man. See something, we have poverty where we come from. It is no fault of ours. You see a poor situation, then they show the contrast of a very sophisticated or developed situation, and then ascribe it to the black man. And what even saddens my heart even worse is when some of those people are people who are supposed to know better because they've had the benefit of education, have had the benefit of travel. Haven't they seen rural areas in Southern Europe? Even in the United States. The other day, my cousin was showing me certain areas in Los Angeles. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. Shanty towns like Nima. I visited Los Angeles about 15 years ago to visit my cousin. There was nothing like that there. Today. So we have to, on days like this, we have to, as Ghanaians, begin to retune, reset our thinking, our values and everything, so that the legacy of Kwame Nkrumah will become even more prominent in our own individual lives.
Thank you very much. Nkrumah.
Well, first of all, I want to genuinely express my pride in joining this panel, which includes especially my old friend Philip London. His presence on this panel this morning is extremely important. One, it demonstrates clearly that it is not everybody and anybody in the New Patriotic Party who is bigoted. It's a clear statement that there are people in the New Patriotic Party who have a principled disagreement with Nkrumah, who may have political and ideological disagreements with Nkrumah, who may not even like the way that Nkrumah did his things. But nonetheless, they appreciate his contribution to Ghanaian history, to African history, and to world history. And there are many of them in the New Patriotic Party. Indeed, it is important also to make the statement that this large number of patriotic Ghanaians who believe in expanding the frontiers of democracy in the New Patriotic Party are themselves victims of a small cabal of family and friends. That small cabal of family and friends, which spends all its efforts trying to denigrate Nkrumah and his achievements, is also responsible for silencing the voice of the reasonable, the voice of democracy within the New Patriotic Party. And this is a very important point to make. Now, yes, I was around when President J.A. Kufuor was campaigning to be president. And one of the most significant things about his campaign was that he managed to strike an alliance with the Convention People's Party. And that alliance was based on a written agreement about shared vision and so on. This is President Kufuor, who was a presidential candidate of the New Patriotic Party. He did not antagonize the CPP. He worked with the CPP in order to come to power. Put that aside. In that campaign, the New Patriotic Party, under the leadership of President Kufuor, erected billboards throughout the country with photographs of Nkrumah and Kufuor together. You understand? Very significant image. Now, some time ago, when we were growing up, even when we were adults, 1979 elections and so on, people said openly that it was not possible for the Dankwa-Busia tradition to ever win elections in this country. To ever win free and fair elections in this country. It is President Kufuor who broke the jinx. And it is important to stress that indeed, when President Kufuor won the elections, there was no contest. Everybody accepted that he had won free and fair. This is most important. You understand? Now, so today, the New Patriotic Party has assumed the stature it has assumed and so on because of the work done by President Kufuor and his lieutenants in order to give the party a new image, a new national image, in order to make the party look like it is able and capable of achieving a national consensus. Unfortunately, this small group of people within the party are destroying whatever President Kufuor and his lieutenants managed to achieve for this country. What is the point of rewriting history and engaging in all the shenanigans that they are engaging? What is the point? The point simply is just to try to do the impossible of elevating J.B. Dankwa and his family to the level of Nkrumah. That's an impossibility. It cannot be done. But that's what they're trying to do. And in the process, they are destroying their own party, they are destroying the national heritage, and making a laughing stock of themselves. Clear? You understand? Now, how can anybody ever dream, just dream, about elevating Dankwa to the status of Nkrumah? My brother, if it hadn't been for the recent shameful efforts of rewriting our history, you walk into the Ghanaian streets and you ask anybody who is Dankwa, they don't know. But today, we have spoken about Dankwa so much, we've done all kinds of things and so on. So when we mention Dankwa, at least he has name recognition. But Massa, just cross the Ghana border into Togo and ask people whether they know somebody like JB Dankwa. They will think that we are coming from outer space. Go to La Côte d'Ivoire, go to Burkina Faso, anywhere in the world, and start talking about JB Dankwa. Say, where is this man coming from? Where is this woman coming from? That is the burden this small cabal has, and is wasting tremendous resources on pushing this needless agenda. Now, for me, when I talk about Nkrumah and his legacy and so on, I'm not talking about one man. I'm talking about a phenomena which took the world by storm and changed our perspectives forever. A phenomena which changed the world, the entire world, not just the Gold Coast, the entire world. And you see, I have often said that pushing this senseless anti-Nkrumah agenda is like kicking your bare feet against a rock. Who gets hurt in the final analysis? If you kick your bare feet against a rock, who gets hurt? And that's what these elements are doing. You see, the socialist movement of Ghana has painstakingly brought together intellectuals, historians, economists, social scientists, and so on, to produce a small book, see the book, titled Fight Back, a response to anti-Nkrumah provocations. And in this book, there are responses to all the baseless allegations which form the basis of this national campaign by this small cabal to denigrate Nkrumah. This small book. And it's available. The facts are available, well researched, everything is here. Now, Alhaji Inusa Hussein spoke about education under Nkrumah. And I'd like to read the statistics from this book. This is page 15, only 15, page 15 of this book. And it says, measured against its 1951 manifesto, the achievements of the CPP, and you can substitute Nkrumah, far exceeded expectation. The manifesto they launched in 1951, what they achieved, exceeded expectation. Do you understand it? According to the Ministry of Education statistical data, official data, enrollment in public schools was 102,138 in 1950. That is before the CPP came into power. This figure increased to 456,290 in 1961. And then to a phenomenal 1,137,495 in 1961. So from 100,000, enrollment in primary schools jumped to more than 1 million. And if you go to 200,000, that's 100% increase. It went how much? So you're talking about more than 1,000% increase in enrollment. Nobody has achieved that anywhere in Africa. Nowhere in Africa. Now listen, during the period 1951 to 61, enrollment in 12 assisted secondary schools, including Achimota, and non-assisted secondary schools increased from 2,776 and 3,319 to 9,882. I hope you are noting the figures. From 2,000 to 9,882. Unprecedented. Match the figures of free SHS to these ones and see the difference for yourself. By 1966, and then note also that there were 12 government-assisted secondary schools throughout the whole country. Now, you hang on. By 1966, enrollment in public secondary schools had increased to 42,111. Enrollment in middle schools also increased by more than threefold in 1951 to 139,984 in 1961, doubling to a remarkable 267,434 in 1966. 2 university colleges were set up in Accra and Kumasi. That's just for education. You understand? This is unprecedented. I will read a few more things. You know, part of the propaganda against Nkrumah is that at the end of colonial rule, the British left us a lot of money. Now, what mindset will make such a statement? Only those who support colonialism and think that colonialism has benefits can make such. Whoa. My brother, would you excuse me? Because I think it has to be said the way it has to be said. Only colonial apologists can make such idiotic statements. Colonialism did not leave us wealth. Colonialism was an exploitative system. It took away, it didn't leave. So to argue that colonialism was beneficial to the Gold Coast is to be idiotic, is to accept colonialism. But let's look at the facts. And it's in response to the claim that the British left Ghana a lot of money before leaving. It says, all kinds of figures have been bandied about the amount of money the British left Ghana in 1957. In fact, what the Matimihu people describe as huge monies left by the British were, first, the accumulation of cocoa surplus known as Cocoa Marketing Board sterling reserves. And second, export duties on cocoa, also known as Ghana government holdings in sterling securities. Thus, at the time of independence, these were the 2 foreign reserves held by Ghana at the Bank of England. And I will explain further. And were often used by Britain to support the pound sterling in times of financial crisis. Nkrumah did not touch these foreign reserves until 1960. The finances of the first development plan, 1951 to 1956, costing £93.3 million, came from cocoa and internally generated resources such as indirect taxes and duties. The second development plan, 1959 to 1964, was financed from the free reserves of 50 million Ghana pounds from government holdings in sterling securities. 25 million Ghana pounds from Cocoa Marketing Board sterling reserves and 15 million Ghana pounds from internal revenue, totaling 90 million Ghana pounds. The balance of 260 million Ghana pounds came from foreign reserves and deficit financing. Clear. In a treatise on Ghana's agrarian basis of the post-colonial state for the period 1951 to 78, Brujon Beckman, Judith Heyer, Pepe Roberts, and Edwin Williams, Rural Development in Tropical Africa, points out that Nkrumah relied initially on reserves and later on foreign and local borrowing, including monetary expansion. Should I read more? Clear. That whole thing about the colonialists leaving us a lot of money and so on is a lot of useless bunkum without any historical basis, without any factual analysis and so on. You understand? And I could go on and on. In fact, this book is available, so I need not continue reading everything. You understand? Everybody can obtain this book and read it for themselves. But let me make another point. You see, Ghana as a nation, as a state, is not just land. I hope you understand what I'm saying. Building a nation, founding a state, is not like what Mungo Park and others did. They took ships, went around the world, and when they saw land, they claimed to have discovered the land. Okay? Nkrumah did not found Ghana like Mungo Park and others founded territories. Christopher Columbus and Don Diego de Azambuja and so on, those European mercenaries and buccaneers, they were founding states by discovering land. Nkrumah did not do that. Nkrumah put together pieces of different cultures, of different levels of understanding, of different aspirations and so on, and modeled the modern state of Ghana. That is why Nkrumah is the founder of the modern Republic of Ghana. It is not just that he was a member of the UGCC. It is not just that he organized positive action. It is not just that he participated in liberating the country from the colonial yoke. But he painstakingly, piece by piece, built the modern state of Ghana. And for those who have been fed on the ignorance of this small cabal of family and friends, please listen. Look, the Gold Coast was not the whole of Ghana, as we know it today. The Gold Coast was limited to even just a section of our coastal states. It did not include parts of the Volta region. It did not include Ashanti. Ashanti was originally not part of the Gold Coast. The Gold Coast did not include the northern territories. Today's northern region, upper east, upper west, northeast, and so on, they were not part of the Gold Coast. It was Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah who deliberately and purposely put together all of these different fractions together to build what is today modern day Ghana. Look, the referendum over whether or not the Volta region, not the whole of the Volta region, a substantial part of the Volta region, should become part of Ghana. The yes vote was led by Nkrumah and the Convention People's Party. Many people who were identified as part of the UP opposed the unification of Ghana. One of them was S.G. Anton. Go and check the history. You understand? And to give credence to what I'm saying, when Buzia became Prime Minister, S.G. Anto, who was a secessionist leader, was appointed Ghana's ambassador to Togo. Check the records. I'm not making it up. Check the records. You understand? So, when we say that Nkrumah was the founder of Ghana, we mean it in all its essence. I hope you understand what I'm saying. We mean it in all of its essence. Now, so many other things have been said. Look, whether the Preventive Detention Act was desirable or not desirable does not take away the fact that Nkrumah founded Ghana. You can found Ghana and enact obnoxious laws. You understand? That is, if we agree that the Preventive Detention Act was an obnoxious law, it doesn't detract from the fact that he's the founder of the modern state of Ghana. But even then, let us look at the Preventive Detention Act. Today, as we speak in this studio today, now, virtually every country in the world has a preventive detention law, including the United States of America, including Britain, including Canada, including all of them, including France. Detention without trial. Why? All those prisoners who were in Guantanamo Bay, had they been tried? Some of them are still there. They were American detainees put in detention under the Patriots Act. What is the difference between the Patriots Act and the Preventive Detention Act? Somebody should tell me. So today, are those who say that Nkrumah was a dictator going to argue that Biden is a communist dictator? Are they going to argue that Barack Obama is a communist dictator? What occasioned the Preventive Detention Act? And I'm going to tell you something, maybe it will shock you. Acts of terrorism were waged against the Nkrumah government. Serious acts of terrorism. Many people died, children, women died as a result of these acts of terrorism. In fact, there's a very famous book, I don't have a copy here, but there's a very, very famous book titled JFK, Ordeal in Africa, authored by Jack Mahoney, and it describes in detail the terrorist acts which were perpetrated against the Nkrumah government. And I think that everybody should try and get it. It is difficult to get fresh ones. You can get them from Amazon. You understand? It is there. And it talks in detail about these terrorist acts which were perpetrated. Some of the terrorists were actually arrested and put on trial. Now, fortunately for us, who were the presiding judges? The judges who tried the terrorists included Van Leer, Justice Van Leer, Justice Akukosa, I think, and Justice Edward Akufo-Addo, the father of the current president, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. They, in their judgment, described Obeche Bilonte and others who were perpetrating the acts of terrorism as terrorists. It was Akufo-Addo's father and two other judges who sentenced those terrorists, who passed judgment on those terrorists. Not me, not Philip, not him. My grandfather was not involved. My grandfather was not a judge. My grandfather was a colonial police officer. It was Akufo-Addo's father who described them as terrorists and sentenced them to jail terms. Today, what crime has Kwame Nkrumah committed when Akufo-Addo's father agreed with him and was actually part of the machinery for enforcing the Preventive Detention Act and so on? What is this? In any case, my brother, look, soon after the February 24, 1966, as opponents of Nkrumah, And not all the opponents of Nkrumah were terrorists. That must be made clear. In fact, some of them actually suffered miscarriage of justice, because at a certain point, that system was abused. Okay? So that's clear. But as opponents of Nkrumah were walking out of jail, supporters of Nkrumah were replacing them. Under the Protective Custody Law, which was passed by the National Liberation Council in 1966. Now tell me the difference between the Protective Custody Law and the Preventive Detention Act, apart from the title. People were being detained without charge and without trial. Look at Dyer, same. So they should stop wasting our years about this useless propaganda and so on. Look, some of the measures which have been taken in the last 7 years clearly vindicate Nkrumah and vindicate those of us who consider ourselves followers of Nkrumah. Can you believe that those who claim that their grandfather or uncle founded Ghana have decided that Republican Day should be downgraded? Today, 1st of July is no longer celebrated as a national public holiday. That's a huge statement. Look, we started winning independence from 1951. In 1951, we gained a certain level of autonomy and self-government and so on. That is when Nkrumah became leader of government business, 1951. 1957, we moved one step higher. Ghana became independent with Nkrumah as prime minister. But the 1957 independence still retained the Queen of England as head of state. And there were several things we could not do as a people. It is 1960, the winning of the Republican status, which consummated our independence and made us a free people. So how come that they support 1957, but they are against 1960? Contradictions in terms and so on. You understand? So even this act of downgrading July 1st is testimony to the fact that they did not like the independence of Ghana and that they fought against it. In any case, only recently, social media sometimes does wonderful things. They do the things that my brother Philip doesn't like, but sometimes they do also very wonderful things. You saw the campaign poster of J.B. Dankwa in the 1960 referendum, urging the people of Ghana to vote no against Republic, against attaining the Republican status. 1960, J.B. Dankwa campaigned against the Republican status. Is this the founder? Is this the founder of Ghana? Somebody should tell me. Somebody who vigorously campaigned against the attainment of the Republican status. How can he be the founder of Ghana? And in any case, my brother, there's something that I really want to badly read, quotations of Buzia, but we'll get there. Why? J.B. Dankwa at a certain stage in his life, when he was asked to propose a name after independence, what name did he choose? Akan land. Look at Ghana today. The name he proposed was Akan land. Akan land. And we should have him as one of the founders of Ghana. The other thing which makes me feel very, very, very terrible. You understand? The argument is that one person cannot found a state. One person cannot found a state. So all the people who contributed, we should bring them together and declare them founders. Agreed. Now, if one person cannot found a state, Can 6 people found a state? 6 people, can they found a state? Why? We know, for example, the role that ex-servicemen played in attaining the independence of Ghana. Why are those ex-servicemen, Corporal Atipo, Sergeant Ajete, and so on, in the big 6? Why are those ex-servicemen? So if we want to honor all those who contributed in establishing Ghana and fighting for against colonialism and so on, it is not 6 people. It is hundreds of thousands of people, including Dede Ashikrisha, including Hanakudo, and so on. Where are they? Including Imoro Ayana, including Kodobotio, and so on. So that argument is false. It's a useless argument which should never be repeated. My brother, I think I found what I wanted to read. And this is in relation to who actually struggled for Ghana's independence. And you remember that when Nkrumah proposed the motion of destiny, I think it was in 1953, motion of destiny, must have been in 1953. His opposition started traveling around the world, making all kinds of noises to delay Ghana's independence. And Buzia, K.A. Buzia, Professor K.A. Buzia, was the one which led the opposition delegation to London. And listen, this is from the book. Buzia, who led the opposition delegation to London, actually appealed to the British government not to grant independence. You hear? He said the country was not ready for it. And this is in quotation marks. What I'm going to read next is, we still need you, the British, in the Gold Coast. If you read the full text, he actually goes on to say that we have still not mastered the ways of the British. And that the British should delay independence so that we can master their ways. What ways? The colonial ways. What ways? The colonial ways? I mean, unbelievable. So, Massa, to cut matters short, so that we can discuss other issues and so on, I highly recommend that if you don't have a copy of this book, the Fight Back, a response to anti-Nkrumah provocations, please contact the reception desk at Pan-African Television and get one for yourself. It has all the facts, it has all the analysis that point to the fact that this small, very, very small cabal of family and friends will fail. One, they will fail in many respects. They will fail in their attempt to capture the new patriotic party that they did not build, and use it for their own family purposes. They will fail. They will fail in that. They will fail in the attempt to perpetuate themselves in power, no matter what surrogates they use. And they will fail in the attempt to denigrate the achievements of Nkrumah. Nkrumah is too big for them. They should try something weaker, not Nkrumah. Nkrumah is too big and powerful for them. These guys are doomed to fail. We on our part will forever recognize 21st September as the Founders' Day, and nothing will stop that. Look, today, as we sit here, we are planning a very big event to commemorate Founders' Day tomorrow. Tomorrow is Friday, right? So tomorrow, the street in front of the Freedom Center, Kotoko Avenue, will be blocked from 11 a.m. to midnight in celebration of Nkrumah as the founder of the modern Republic of Ghana. Many things are going to happen on that street. Look, Dr. Neil Ante Blankson will be there. Kala will be there. Amanziba will be there. Iwan will be there. Many others will be there. I think Rex Omar and all of them will be there. The Freedom Band will shake the foundations of Accra with soothing, soulful music tomorrow. And there will be on exhibition books of Nkrumah and other memorabilia. Is that how they say it? Other memorabilia. You understand? Food vendors will fill the streets and will serve you anything and everything from kenke to wache and so on. Tomorrow will be a great day. Tomorrow is a day on which Nkrumahs, socialists, progressives, Pan-Africanists will gather on the street in front of the Freedom Center to teach that small band of family and friends, that they will never succeed in denigrating the achievements of Nkrumah. We shall surely be victorious. Let us, all of us, gather in front of the Freedom Center in Accra tomorrow, and let's show our might. Let's show that no force can rewrite the history of Ghana. We will succeed.
Thank you very much, Rajin. I think that was made very loud and clear. Kwame Nkrumah remains a legend that cannot be tarnished, and his reputation as the founder of this country can never, ever be extinguished. Now, I'll take time to read some of the many messages that you have sent. Lam Hadi says, good morning, Uncle Kwesi Pratt. Where can I get this book in Tamale? My regards to my former MP, Honorable Inusa Fusini, right? So as earlier stated, you can just call the reception. Pan-African Television would try as much as possible to get it to you. I mean, the book. Just have to pay a little money and then would transport it to you. Abdul Razak Zakari says, good morning. Mahdi Kyle says, bless. I think we would need excerpts of Mr. Pratt's presentation, right? Juliana Belinda Aubry says, we are listening to proper history. It will be incumbent on our schools to teach history lessons, right? Suleiman Abdul Rahim says, today is for all of us. Malik Hammond says, so J.B. Danquah preached against the attainment of Republican status in 1960. He said we should vote no. Then why are we even thinking of naming Legon after him? Right. Thank you for your message. Jeffrey Bache says, Africa has not found any transformational leader or politicians after visionary or surgical Dr. Kwame Nkrumah's exit. He is the rejected messiah of Africa, especially Ghana, and we shall pay dearly for it. Yusuf Gaza Sofran says, we really need to rewrite Ghana's history. Achula Maxwell Otieno says, long live the spirit of Kwame Nkrumah. Ibrahim Ahmed says, I'm watching you from Spain, Barcelona. Thank you so much for watching far away from Spain. And let me do some of your messages that you've sent via our WhatsApp line. Good morning, Pan Africa. My name is, you didn't add your name. You only said you didn't add your name, right? But you want to ask if you can get a soft copy of the book, right? And this one here also says, I'm David from Kufuridia. Please, where can I get this book? It seems lots of you are interested in the book. I'll try as much as possible to get back to you. All of you have sent in messages. Yes, I'll give you the number to call as well, so that we can try to make this book also reach you. This one here says, the historian Papa, I salute. Right, thank you so much for your message. And please, how much is the book fight? I think it's around 50 Ghana cedis. Good morning to you all. Nkrumah remains the founder of Ghana. Right, thank you very much for your message. Your name is Amma. Right, thank you, Amma, for your message. Thank you very much, Alaji and Uncle Pratt, for the education. Sometimes it hurts to see these ignorant, some ignorant people following this MPP who from time immemorial have made deliberate attempts to impoverish the North. These MPP people are simply unpatriotic, anti-Ghana, selfish, and tribal bigots. Nkrumah never dies, indeed, by KK Francis from Wa. Thank you very much for your message, KK Francis. Right, let's proceed to our next topic for discussion. It's an African story. Former Niger president sues military junta in ECOWAS court demanding freedom. Right, so that's going to be our next topic for discussion. It's got to do with Mohamed Bazoum, the ousted Nigerian president, and he has applied to the West African Regional Court seeking his liberation from house arrest. The story goes on to say Bazoum is also appealing to the court to order a return to constitutional order, which was disrupted on July 26 when he was removed from office by a junta led by head of presidential guard Abdurrahmani Chiani. The ousted president was placed under house arrest following the coup, but his lawyer, Senegalese Seydou Diane, confirmed to the media that processes have been filed at the Economic Community of West African State Courts in Abuja, Nigeria. The application filed on September 18, among others, want the court to overturn Bazoum's arbitrary detention and enforce his rights to movement. Right, I'll end it there and then allow Mr. Philip Landing to share his thoughts on this topic.
Well, thank you very much, Bless. First of all, let me react to one of the text messages you read from KK Francis in, I think it was in Wa. He said something to the effect that MPP people are against the North and stuff like that. Please.
We can't be hearing you in the studio. Those of us with you in the studio, we can't hear you.
Okay. I said I want to react to one of the text messages that was just WhatsApp messages that was just read from Mr. KK Francis in Wa.
Yeah.
I won't ask you to repeat it again anyway. But something to the effect that the MPP is against the North and MPP people and some horrible things about my party. He has his right to say what he says, to think what he wants to think, but that is not true. And I think it's very unfortunate for anybody to have that impression. The New Patriotic Party had the opportunity to come to power in 2001, and the records are there to see what President Kufuor did. New Patriotic Party to have the chance again 2017, and has done his bit. So how can he say that? I think such a statement is totally, I want to condemn it, not just disagree, but condemn such a statement. I thought we wouldn't spend the whole day today talking about Nkrumah because it is something also very passionate to my heart. And Comrade Kwesi spoke at a lot of things, but anyway, we are moving on. The former president of Niger, this position he's taken by appealing to the ECOWAS court, asking the court virtually to rule, ordering the junta to restore him in power and that kind of thing. I think he's placing ECOWAS in a very difficult, and the whole sub-region in a very difficult situation. Where we are now, ECOWAS as a grouping, the heads of state have come together and made a pronouncement condemning the coup, as all countries would do. But then there's a dilemma that the coup has actually found a lot of popular support. That pitches the ECOWAS position against the local popular democratic position. Yes, we haven't put it to a vote, but it is abundantly clear that the coup is very popular. So I think it puts ECOWAS in a very, ECOWAS has had to climb down from its original posture of giving deadlines and threats and, things like that, to having to come to terms with the reality of the situation on the ground. Emissaries have been sent by ECOWAS to go there and talk to the junta people. There's been some progress, there have been some developments. So I think this effort on his part to take it to the ECOWAS court just brings in another dimension to this whole thing, which is virtually uncharted territory for the ECOWAS states. Never has a president who has been deposed taken his case to ECOWAS or any other court asking to be reinstated. What we have seen in the past is where coup leaders or past governments have been taken to court for human rights abuses. This is what we are used to. But this is a completely different situation that we are not used to. So I think that this path of taking the junta to court, the ECOWAS court, I mean, there are so many issues that one would have expected, well, of course, but a court can't just take up an issue until the issue is brought before it. But I think the court should be proactive, and the committees of ECOWAS should be proactive in taking certain issues to the court to have addressed. You know, we're having problems with migration of people in the sub-region and difficulties, the Fulani situation, you know, banditry situation. These are issues that they could deal with, you know, as against an ousted leader taking the matter to court. First of all, I think we should appreciate the fact that even the way he has been handled, it's not the way we have been, we've seen. First, when there's a coup, what do they do? The first when start killing people. This hasn't happened. There has been no bloodshed. I think things have gone on well, and it should be managed quite well, you know, as against him taking the case to court. We should be looking at dealing with the political situation while at the same time allowing trade to go through. The absence of trade is impoverishing our people. Not just the people in Niger, but other countries, Burkina Faso, even Ghana. Because we rely on a lot of agricultural produce that comes all the way from Niger. So if there's a problem like this, I would wish that the court would rather be looking at ways of safeguarding the interests of the citizens and individuals of the ECOWAS region while dealing with the political problem of the coup. Because at the end of the day, it is the bandits and the insurgents and the terrorists who are actually taking advantage of the situation. When borders are closed, trucks are held up, and they become sitting targets for these people. We've seen what has been happening. You know, so I think that the ECOWAS court should probably be looking at some of these things, and as to how best, and ECOWAS itself as a grouping should be looking at how best they can be addressing the shortfalls that have come up as a result of this takeover, as against concentrating on the well-being of the president himself. I think this has always been the problem. Some of these presidents have only taken care about themselves. All their exports, everything has been going to them, to the detriment of the people. So I think it is even time for ECOWAS as a body should begin to look not just as the people, at the leadership who may have been overthrown, but as the people and citizens of the community in general. You know. So that's what I...
Right, thank you very much. Honorable Yunusa. But even before I come to Honorable Yunusa, I think I have the numbers to call if you want a copy of the Fight Back book. So if you want a copy, call 024-926-2132, 024-926-2132. I repeat, 024-926-2132. So you just call and say you want a copy of the Fight Back book. I understand it's just 30 Ghana cedis. So yes, you call and then grab a copy for yourself. Honorable Yunusa.
I could suggest that you could make copies available at some of the university bookshops and actually use your platform to let people know, and they will buy hundreds of those books.
Exactly. We'll try to do that.
So today is Nkrumah's day, and to be honest with you, I'm very encouraged by the new perspectives that Mr. Kosiprat has brought to bear on the title founder. And the new perspective is not the discovery of physical land, physical infrastructure, but the modeling of Ghana as a homogeneous, integrated, socially cohesive entity. And that could only take policy to do that. And if you take it from that perspective, I think Kosi Pratt has put it in so clearer a light that anybody who wants to understand why Nkrumah should be credited with the founder of modern Ghana should even look at us on this stage.
Yeah.
Now we are from different backgrounds, different ethnic compositions, But it is through Nkrumah's policy that even sitting here, we see ourselves first as Ghanaians, willing to tolerate each other, not exercising superiority over any other ethnic group. It is the policy of Nkrumah that has brought that recognition and acceptance in Ghana that we are Ghanaians first before our tribes. In fact, some act now, some tribes still fight it. Yeah. They still think that they are superior. But that policy is what should all of us should agree, even including people who are fighting Nkrumah, that Nkrumah led the social integration and cohesiveness of this country. That as a country, we will spare from secessionist wars and conflicts. And many countries in Africa are suffering it. That Nkrumah led an all-inclusive development that makes people want to belong to the country. Okay, the Casamance region in the East African area is fighting because of political exclusion, but they got independence. And so yes, I agree with you. And the paradox,
the Avoidance of Discrimination Act was key in cementing Ghana as a unit. Key.
I mean, I like the perspective you have brought, and as a student of politics and a student of history, this perspective should guide our discussions of Nkrumah. You know, I mean, clearly, you cannot. I mean, you should feel proud to be a Ghanaian.
Yeah.
And that, why did people from Nigeria want to take our passports?
Yes.
Why? Nigeria is a big colossus in West Africa. But people want to belong to Ghana because we are integrated, socially cohesive people. Now, for Bazoum and Niger, I think they have taken a lot of missteps, ably aided by ECOWAS leaders. The first misstep, there has been a coup d'etat in Niger. And instead of adopting a negotiated solution out of the situation, they took a belligerent position. That was a huge misstep. And that compromised the security and safety of not only Bazoum, but his family. I don't know why Bazoum is not saying that and condemning ECOWAS leaders. I mean, if you want a return, the coup in Niger is unlike other coups. It didn't start because of misgovernance. It started as a personal feud between Tiani and Bazoum. Bazoum has been a subject of a democratic process, an election. He won the election. There was a change of government. And so he wanted now to exercise control over the country because Tiani was the head of the presidential unit under Yusufu.
Yes, yeah.
Okay? And so he had a lot of control over the presidential unit. The president thought that the control of Tiani was a threat to his security. And then he decided that, well, let me reshuffle the presidential unit, a guard unit, so that Tiani could be removed and somebody more loyal, who could be a man would be put there because it's about my security. That led to the conflict. This ought to have invited a negotiated solution out of it.
That's all.
It's personal. It was personal. Now, you took a position, yes, because you had put it there. But ECOWAS itself has not been true to its charter. It's true to its charter. When Alassane Ouattara decided to treat the constitution of Côte d'Ivoire with contempt and was re-elected as leader, ECOWAS was there because leaders of ECOWAS were there to legitimize his third term in office. I mean, look at Guinea. What happened? In any case, the architecture in the French-speaking countries speak volumes to what is happening there. How come that in those countries a separate arm of the military is established for the purposes of protecting the presidency? This is a colonial architecture. That the people, the general army, are excluded from the protection process. And so it encourages patrimony, where only people who are part of the family of the president, whose loyalty can be vouched for, will be part of the presidential guard. That's patrimony. And they take offices by reason of that. And those offices are paid for by the states. Well, like Mr. Philip Landon has said, the coup, even though started as a personal feud between the president and his head of the presidential guard unit, it has gained popular support because of the rhetoric and because of the hardship that the Niger people have been facing.
Right.
I mean, and the unexplained interest, or we want the explained interest of France, because it's not unexplained. I mean, uranium clearly comes from some part, I mean, about 30% or so of world supply comes from Niger. It was grossly undervalued. And it helped to prop up the economy of France. And the process, even the small process, the small that was coming in, I mean, like Achapo said, even the small that the military were getting, it was taken away by Wuzia. Now, so the small even that was coming in is expropriated by the ruling class. And so the people are left with nothing. So why would they support a new vision, a new hope of prosperity? And that is why all these coups are becoming popular. Look at what has happened in recently in Cameroon. I mean, and even the discovery of huge amounts of money. I mean, Cameroon producing oil, and the oil, the resources only remain in the family. Again, the person who has taken over is a close cousin. It's a cousin, a distant cousin of the president. And all over you can see clearly that there's a new awakening. In any case.
That is it. The awakening.
Yeah, new awakening.
The awakening.
Yes, so the
awakening.
The ECOWAS court is when they give decisions on affecting countries, they are only advisory. They are not binding. They are advisory.
Right.
And how they can enforce that decision, I don't know. It's good that they are going to court. He's trying, or it's a mistake. I think that it should be negotiated, especially since Issoufou is still in Niger.
Right.
There are avenues by which he could be freed. The person who advised him to maintain tyranny is still in Niger. His son was part of the previous government. Issoufou's son was part of the previous government. So the avenues are still there. I don't know why our leaders were not taking advantage of the avenues to negotiate a solution out of this. And using belligerence to do this. I mean, it will help us.
Right. Thank you very much, Honorable Inusa. Kwame Pratt.
Well, Bazoum is just living in cuckoo's land. And the earlier he came into touch with reality, the better it will be for him. I mean, he's sitting in his prison quarters in Niger, hoping that ECOWAS court,
presidential prison quarters,
hoping that ECOWAS court can restore him as president of Niger. He's daydreaming. And he thinks that ECOWAS can mobilize the military muscle to restore him. That is, he lives in the fantasy world. You know, I've been following the situation in Niger quite closely. I know one of the things which shook me a bit was one of the generals in Niger saying that if ECOWAS fires the first shot and his troops begin to react, they would not stop until they've taken over Benin and added it to Niger.
No.
A Nigerian general, he says, let ECOWAS fire the first shot. When we start reacting, we are not stopping until we have reached Cotonou, until we have added Benin to Niger. And I heard a Burkinabe general and said, let them try. Yeah. We will take over Abuja. So these are the dimensions. And Bazoum is sitting in hey, he's sitting in prison. Oh. Maybe he doesn't know the reality outside. He's just living in cuckoo's land. Look, I fully agree with Alhaji Nusa Fuseni that it is possible to negotiate something which will take account of the popular support that the coup enjoys, which will take account of the legitimate interest of the Nigerian people, and which will take account of the collective interest of the people of West Africa. It is possible to negotiate something. If you had smart leaders, if you had leaders who are thinking, leaders who are minded to break out of the new colonial yoke, we can achieve the result. And Bazoum should be allowed to dream his dreams of liberation. Nobody stops us from dreaming, and he can also continue to dream.
Right. Thank you very much, Kwesi Pratt. Our time is up. This is where we'll end today's conversation, the holiday edition of the show. I'm sure you have enjoyed it as much as I have. Many thanks to my panelists, Comrade Kwesi Pratt Jr., the Honorable Inusa Fuseni, and also Mr. Philip London for your time this morning. We decided to spend your holiday with us. We are extremely grateful. To those of you who sent in messages via Facebook and via text, thank you so much. Keep on watching Pan-African Television. Let me extend belated birthday felicitations to Felix Yao Ajavo. He is part of Justice for Ghana, so the leadership of Justice for Ghana, they want to celebrate you, and yesterday was your birthday. They say happy birthday to you, right? And also the numbers to call again. If
also just to announce that those who are looking for copies of Fight Back, it will be available at the Street Carnival tomorrow. Kotoko Avenue, from 11 a.m. to midnight. Anybody looking for a copy of the book, just walk to the space in front of Freedom Center and you would have a copy of the book.
Right. Thank you.
The price we announced, I'm not sure.
Right. But we still do not think that it will be so much.
It's not expensive at all.
Right. Thank you so much. And we'll draw curtains on today's show here. I'll catch you same time tomorrow. Do have a pleasant day. Bye-bye.